Hello and welcome to Utah and the Wasatch Front, and that capital of cities, Salt Lake City, a rapidly growing area on the move. And who makes up most of Utah? It's those Latter-day Saints, the Mormons, that's who. But what makes Utah and the Mormons so different from other groups? Booze, suds, and hooch is forbidden in their religion. So who in their right mind would start a brewery in the last state to repeal prohibition? Why, it's Greg Sheriff, the head of Wasatch Brewery.
I didn't come in a pull cart, but I did hitchhike here, so I feel that makes me a pioneer of sorts. When I came to Utah here, I had to experience what it was like to be a minority for the first time, and it was kind of a radical concept to do a brewery in Utah. It was the only way I could think of to get even with the Mormons. I had heard about a concept that someone had started in California. It was actually the first brew pub, and where they actually made the beer right on premise of their restaurant pub and sold it directly to their customer, which is a huge advantage. It's kind of like a bakery, you know, serving their bread right on their own premises. Unfortunately, it was illegal here in Utah. So when we went in and said, we want to do this brew pub concept, I went down and talked to the head of the Alcohol Beverage Control Commission, and I was kind of dismissed summarily that, you know, you're crazy already, we know that, and if you think you're going to get the law change here in Utah, you're really crazy. But it was kind of a survival instinct that I knew I had to do something if my brewery was going to survive. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to introduce a law that would make it legal to do brew pubs in Utah. And the guy says, well, you know, get lost, you know, you don't have a prayer. And then something really fortuitous happened that you couldn't have planned or manipulated. This guy I originally talked to, Glenn Brown, my local representative, had been elected Speaker of the House. We got the bill passed the last day of the legislative session in 1987. And made brew pubs legal here in Utah. So, you know, I keep waiting for some kind of royalty from all the other brew pubs in the state, but nobody's really stepped up. And if we go out of business tomorrow, that will always be, I think, my claim to fame. If I showed up at the legislative session today and wanted to make some changes, I'd get thrown out of my ass. So it's a challenge being in the beer business in Utah. There are laws wherever you go. I'd say the bigger challenge is that when I started out, at any rate, I always said that half the people in the state weren't potential customers. And when you take a market and you're trying to start a new business and you just lop off half of the people in that marketplace as non-customers, it presents a lot of challenges. Billboard, the local largest billboard company, have been putting up our billboards for years, and when we sent them the artwork for the polygamy porter ad, which the tagline was "Bring some home for the wives," and the other tagline was "Why have just one?" We went ahead and asked them to put that up, and they refused to. We think politically motivated because they're very involved with the Utah legislature, lobbying them heavily, and I think they were afraid they might offend the local culture and the legislatures. Well, when you say censorship, the media just comes out of the woodwork, and AP picked it up. NPR had us on for a couple different interviews on National Public Radio. Our website crashed from the amount of t-shirt orders we got for our polygamy porter. So things just went bananas, and of course all the journalists were getting ready to come to Utah for the 2002 Olympics. Didn't have anything to really write about yet because no one had won a medal, nothing else was going on, so they were doing background stories. Our polygamy porter just really got a lot of momentum. And we had a lot of fun with it, but like I said, it wasn't timing. It was just dumb luck. The Provo Girl, we thought, you know, would be fun. It was kind of a play on the St. Pauli beer out of Germany and the city of Provo, which is not known for its beer drinking. And then to commemorate that, we actually hired a gal who went around as the Provo Girl, who was a very attractive young gal we had dressed up in a dirndl. And that was a great campaign. We had a lot of fun with it. It was very successful. Billboards were great. We did that when we came out with the first microbrewed beer in a can, and we had Ingrid on the billboard, and the cut line was "Nice Cans," which it was a little edgy, but most people took it in the right vein and laughed it off. Senator What-Ups had gone on record saying that he didn't like our polygamy porter or our St. Provo girl and some of our other ads. He then tried to retract that and said, oh, he doesn't have any issue. He just wanted a higher beer tax for different reasons, for enforcement and education. He wanted to just put the tax on the Wasatch Brewery. It was explained to him that you can't just tax one business, it'd have to be an industry-wide tax. So he went ahead and did that, but it was clearly, we felt, an infringement on our First Amendment rights by telling us, since we don't like your ads, we're going to punish you with a higher tax. We decided to reenact the Boston Tea Party as a tax protest, and we poured 4 kegs of beer into the Great Salt Lake, and we all dressed up in colonial costumes, and I pretended I was Ben Franklin and had a colonial costume on, and we would yell, give me liberty or give me a cold one, or taxation without representation is Utah. I decided to cap it off with a beer, which we called First Amendment lager. All the antics, personally, the First Amendment reenactment of the Boston Tea Party when we poured the beer in the Salt Lake was just a lot of fun. Certainly nationally, even internationally, there was a debate going on, and we thought it'd be fun to kind of jump in the fray and come out with a beer and some advertising that depicted the beer drinker evolving from one ape to the next and eventually to a stand-up kind of guy. One of our cut lines in our beer is, this beer was created in 27 days, not 7. I just thought it was a classic example of where intelligent design and the study of evolution, they turned their back on rational, sound, scientific, proven theory and wanted to impose their values on people that didn't believe that way. And I'm just an old hippie, and it pissed me off. People can believe whatever they want, but you can't teach nonsense to kids in school and call it fact. The scientific community, the educational community, the state superintendent of schools, and anybody that, you know, had a triple-digit IQ basically said, we're not going there. And it was done. If we're looking for material, we just kind of wait around for the Utah legislature to come up with something for us, because those guys have some bizarre ideas sometimes, so we like to use them for material. I've been voting without missing an election in Utah for 30 years, and I've only voted for one candidate as a national candidate that has won an election. I don't feel my vote really gives me a voice in Utah, so I find other ways to express how I feel about things. I sometimes confuse whether I'm a frustrated politician or a beer maker. I get to live vicariously through my beer in politics. Being a liberal, non-Mormon, beer-drinking, ex-Catholic in Utah makes you a minority, and sometimes, as you know, being a minority can be a challenging, frustrating experience. So I try to guard my frustration and try to keep it on the fun side. I've got some political issues that I don't mind mixing in when I can, and shit, as long as I'm not ruining my business, it just makes it more interesting. And if I was offending my customers, it'd just be stupid at the end of the day. But so far, I think my core customer enjoys our irreverence. Our mission statement basically is to make the best beers, best ales and lagers possible, to have as much fun as that is legally possible. We're always trying to live up to our mission statement. Sell beer, sell great beer, have as much fun, and not go to jail.
Eins, zwei, drei, vier, lift your style and drink your beer. Drink, 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 blue eyes that are bright as stars when they're shining on me. And drink, 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 to lips that are red and sweet as the fruit on the tree. Here's a hope that those bright eyes will shine lovingly.
We live here in Utah in a theocracy, and there's no mistake about that.